Hello and welcome back to the 53rd episode of the Oligarchy Disruptor podcast with your host, Bennett Leon. And of course, we have our lovely co-host with us, Ashley Downing.
Hello, hello.
All right, guys. So we have a really dope episode lined up for you guys. We're going to talk about the influence of money in politics and how it really affects everything underneath it. It's really a trickle-down system on once it comes to that. That's really the stem of a lot of the issues that we have in Washington and that we've experienced really since this disastrous decision that we're going to cover also in this episode, which is the decision by the Supreme Court in 2010 regarding Citizens United. We're also going to talk about how Democrats and Republicans are bought and paid for by different industries and different people, but sometimes and oftentimes they are one and the same. But we'll talk about that a little later on. And we're even going to talk about how and give specific examples of Donald Trump, Joe Biden, who's contributing to them this election cycle in 2020. And we found out some really cool tidbits that we can't wait to share with you there. So let's go ahead and jump into the first topic. Let's go back to the beginning of this in 2010 with this disastrous Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court. So Ashley, go ahead, take it away. Enlighten us. What happened then? Why is it so bad for us?
Okay, so Citizens United, it was basically a decision that said that corporations can be considered people. So originally, corporations could not donate to political campaigns, but this decision basically made it so that corporations are still technically cannot, but they're considered people, so they can. So let's basically made a loop in the system. But this made it so that people in Washington can really become as powerful as money can buy them, which is scary, really scary. And how this started was a conservative group actually wanted to post Hillary Clinton ads, and it was getting too close to the election. And that was the whole decision that that overturned was they couldn't. It was 30 days, 30 days before primary or 60 days before a general election. You couldn't donate any money or run these ads. And so they overturned that and said that now corporations are considered people, so they can do as they please, and they can also do it at any point in the election cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we know now, this opened the floodgates of dark money and influencing our politics and our politicians to new levels that we had never seen and experienced as a country before.
It gave a new name to PAC, Super PAC.
Absolutely. And once again, it puts more money into money and power into the hands of the few. And once again, who is that? That's the oligarchy. Mm-hmm. Those are the people all the way up top, that small group of individuals that because of their wealth, influence, and power, they are able to do these things. Now that they can buy politicians and it's legal bribery, which is basically what this is, and enables them to do.
Exactly.
Like conceptually, guys, you have to think about it. Like, if I give you money and for your campaign to get reelected, do you honestly think I'm giving you that money for no reason at all? And it would be a large sum, of course, because as a corporation or a company or whatnot, they give substantial amounts more. They set up super PACs so that they can flush these campaigns with money in order for them to win in their best interest. Because once again, it is in their best interest to put those people in power because they are donating to them. They know they're going to get something back for it. That's why it became so important after 2016 when Bernie Sanders originally said that he wasn't going to take any corporate PAC money, and since then has become a very mainstream position to have among the Democrats, at least the progressive Democrats, and specifically most of the ones running for the presidency. And coincidentally, Joe Biden is not one of those people.
Well, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned Bernie too, right? Because he didn't take corporate PAC money, any type of PAC money. And he raised so much money still and was able to last so long in the election. So that clearly says that a lot of Americans wanted Bernie because he was not bought by any kind of corporation. So yeah, I think that's really powerful versus Biden or Trump or Hillary Clinton, even other people who are just given all of these hundreds of thousands of dollars, or if not millions. I mean, millions. Some of these super PACs give to one political campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really insane. And then we'll pull up actual graphics for you guys to check out and see the kind of things that we're talking about and the industries that are supporting these candidates in particular. It's going to be pretty interesting for you to see. We found out some pretty interesting things that we didn't know about even when we were doing a little bit of research before this episode started. But I want to tie in and pivot onto the topic of how Democrats and Republicans are both taking contributions from different dark money groups, or they're both taking money from specific industries that that want a certain agenda done, let's shed a little light about that to our audience, and how each representative from like the parties are really kind of bought and paid for, like we said in the beginning of the episode, by different people in different industries. So for example, let's talk about how the Democrats, for more often than not, are bought by the health insurance industry. They're bought by private prisons. Oftentimes, like Bill Clinton was the one that pushed the crime bill, coincidentally, that locked up millions of Americans since the 90s.
Biden also, under Barack Obama, they built a lot of private prisons.
Exactly. And then the Republicans, they have the gun manufacturers, they have big oil. The big banks are kind of bought by, they're being shared by everybody. The banks have enough money to throw at both parties. But that's what's fucked up. Like we're kind of taking it like a joke, but it's really fucked up that these people and these entities think that they can literally buy our election. And people that are even like huge Democratic donors, like for example, Michael Bloomberg, himself being one of the oligarchs and one of the people that can do this, like he actually showed how much influence you have when you as an oligarch step into a race. One, he was given
all you have to do is have a lot of money.
One, he was given preference for the debates. Like they weren't a lot of other candidates before, like Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard, they were all talking shit about like how they couldn't get into the debates. But as soon as Michael Bloomberg, one of the donor class of the Democratic Party, wants to jump in, okay, we're going to relax the rules for you. And he spent, when he was in the race for, what was it, like 6 months or so, he spent like close to like 600 billion, 6 or 700 billion, I think. Not billion, million. Billion is a ton. Billion is a ton. Yeah, $600 or $700 million in that short run. Like, can you imagine like what that money would have done elsewhere? Like, and he actually in the national standings he got pretty high, and that just goes to show like what money can do for you.
Well,
even
and let's
literally only won one territory, like American Samoa, or like with that random one, whatever it was.
Oh,
like,
yeah. That's right.
Like,
he did. I forgot about that.
He got a good amount of the national, like the popular vote. Like that's crazy. That's what money can do for you.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget, I remember at this first, I think it was the first Democratic debate he was even a part of. He said, no matter who the Democratic nominee is, everybody on this stage is going to put their differences aside and back the person. And I'm going to put all my money in making sure that Trump isn't the next president. So
yeah,
I would bet my ass that the Democrats only let him in the race so late in the game because they knew they were going to get all that money.
And that's what he's doing. He kind of, after he's dropped out, he has flushed the Democratic side with cash to replace the Republican presidency. And he even said it while he was running that, like, what would you guys prefer me to do? Would you rather me spend the money and try to beat Donald Trump. But at the time, he was trying to spend the money for himself to replace
Or
Donald Trump. But I mean, that's a separate conversation. But now now that he's out of the race, he's just flushing the Democrats with cash, trying to get people to register to vote or like whatever the initiative is. But
whatever.
yeah. So yeah, he has flushed them with cash, and I'm sure they're loving every second of that. So let's go ahead and dive into open secrets. Let's show them exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the Democrats and Republicans kind of being supported by different industries, and let's give them dollar amounts and show them where this money's coming from. So let me share my screen with you guys. Give me 2 seconds for you. Okay. Alrighty, so we have Donald Trump. Let's start off with the incumbent president here, our favorite Donnie. So once again, this is for the 2020 cycle of the presidency. Here we can see the industries that are supporting the president this time around. These are the dollar amounts, but I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom where we can see more of a graphic for you guys to check out. With this. So once again,
and I definitely suggest everybody go on this website. It's really interesting.
Absolutely. Definitely go check it out. Once again, it's opensecrets.org. Just type in Donald Trump and click on 2020 cycle, and that should be the page that we're on. So once again, we can see here the top sectors of industries that are supporting the president in this time around. So we have, what's really interesting about Donald Trump is that his largest part of our bar in the graph is the other, and like that, it doesn't fit into any
what
of those
is that?
other. Yeah, exactly. So that brings up a lot of questions, like what is all those other ones? But as you can see here, like what was really surprising also is that he didn't get a ton of money from the Defense Department, which I thought he would definitely get more money from them. Considering his stance on like the military-industrial complex and whatnot. He basically feeds the beast.
I thought he would have gotten more from finance, insurance, and real estate also. I was a little bit surprised about that one.
Yeah, I think they just assume, like what I said to you earlier as well, I feel like they just assume that he's going to be on their side.
Right.
But even if they don't, at least the finance industry was, they're definitely on the side of the Democrats as well. So if they don't
we'll see.
if they don't get in with Donald Trump, then they're going to get in with the Democrats. So it's a win-win for the banks for the most part. And let's see here. Healthcare, that's another kind of sizable one. Miscellaneous business. Ideological single issue, to me, that screams like evangelicals, like that screams like churches, like stuff, that kind of like environment to me. But that other category you see there in
off the chart,
30 million, yeah, that's pretty insane for the president. And that other is actually 29, basically $30 million. That's crazy. But let's go ahead and pivot to Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee that's going to be up against Donald Trump in 2020 November. So this time around, it looks like Joe Biden, his campaign, has raised a significant amount of money, the most, it seems, from the finance, insurance, and real estate industry, like the ones where he was slacking over there. It looks like they're helping out.
They're on Biden's
over here. Yeah. And they were very much on the side of the Democrats as well in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. She has a really good reputation with the banks on Wall Street. She gave like paid speeches to their events and stuff like that. And they came out for her and, of course, supported her in her bid for the presidency in 2016. But it's interesting to see that they kind of continue that trend with Joe Biden in 2020. Alongside the lawyers and lobbyists for Joe Biden, taking like a big piece of that as well. Ideological single issue also has a pretty sizable chunk under Joe Biden. And other is also sizable under Joe Biden as well. He has some labor support, $708,000 it looks like. Very little from the Defense Department again. But we can basically see here that he is supported by, more so than other industries, the finance, insurance, and real estate industry. So, or industries. So that's going to be really interesting to kind of look through and show you guys. And I hope you learn a little bit more about that. But anything you wanted to share that I didn't cover with this before I leave the screen share?
No, I don't think so. I just thought it was really interesting when I first started looking up this, on Open Secrets, these candidates. And I looked at Hillary Clinton's too, and also at Obama's. And it was just interesting. That's why I sent you those screenshots of the charts, because it's like, where's all of Trump's support? Like he had
Yeah, dude. Like,
really though. I mean, he had his line was like under 5, 8, 10, in the short millions, and then you had some of these in the double digits, and then you look at his, and it's like all in the single digit millions, except for the other category.
mm-hmm.
So I thought that was like kind of strange. Where is this money coming from? But yet his campaign is the most funded.
Absolutely. I actually want to kind of go back and show them that.
I was going to say you should go back and
because I want to compare the difference and the amount of fundraising that Donald Trump did compared to Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. So let's go ahead and check to see like who's really getting this, like all this money. And then here you see like these are his super PACs, like Biden for president, or like this is his campaign, I'm pretty sure. Unite the Country is another one. American Possibilities is another super PAC that supports Joe Biden. So it looks like this time around he has raised $86,157 for his campaign alone, and then outside groups raised $12 million about. And that is from February 29th of this year to March 23rd. Let's go ahead and cover Donald Trump to see how he compares. So once again, keep in mind, Joe Biden about 90 million. Let's call it 100 million, right? Like let's even give him 100 million. Let's call it that. So now we're gonna pivot to Donald Trump and let's show him. Let's show that support or those contributions. So like you can see his is first off, there's a longer list of super PACs supporting the president in this one. So this is his campaign, Donald Trump for president. After that, they have America First Action, Committee to Defend the President, Great America PAC, Black Americans to Re-elect the President, Rebuilding America Now, Tea Party PAC, no surprise, Support American Leaders PAC, like random shit, guys. But these are the entities that Citizens United enabled. They enabled the creation of these super PACs, these entities to flush the system with to flush our campaign system with this dark money. And these entities are not they're not forced to disclose where this money comes from, which is where the term dark money comes from.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so awesome about this website is that this is actually available for every kind of election, for congressional, for congresswomen and men, for senators, for governors, I think there's even one for mayoral races in here. So it's really interesting figuring out where this money is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's compare Donald Trump's to Joe Biden's once again. So keep in mind, Joe Biden he has raised so far about like $100 million, let's say, and Donald Trump completely blows that out of the water. His campaign single-handedly raising $232 million, which is an astronomical, staggering amount for one campaign. So that's just to go to what we're up against when we're trying to defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of America. And for the outside groups, he has even more money coming, right? So those outside groups you see here, they raised $46.6 million on top of
even
the
just the
232.
amount,
like that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, even just the total amount that they've already spent and the cash on hand that the president's campaign has, both
Mhm.
outweigh the amount of money that Joe Biden has raised in total. That
That
doesn't even count the amount that he's already spent.
that's 100% true. I'm gonna go ahead and check back. So like this is the cash on hand for the campaign. Let's just say it's $100 million. I'm kind of scared to even look at his. Oh my God, Joe Biden's.
12.
So these are
Wow.
Joe Biden's numbers.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, 13. He's a combined between his campaign and outside groups, cash on hand 13 million, and that is going up against $100 million on the president. Absolutely insane to think that these guys are gonna replace the incumbent president with this kind of money. But that's just
When
goes to show like this guy is not getting the support of the ordinary people. Like you can see also, let's pull up Joe Biden's contributors. Like who is actually supporting it? Like is he actually getting the support of everyday normal Americans?
Yeah,
Let's go
I
ahead and
know
see.
that's no.
Like look at this guys. Like you can see right away like the contributors, Greylock Partners, like these are all like financial institutions, companies over the $1 million marks. Like you can see who this guy is taking the money from. And I'm not saying he's any
I
better
think
or
there's
worse
even
than
a
Trump.
section on there for individual contributions.
Yeah, there was. I thought it was under here,
I thought so
but
too.
it might be under donor demographics. I feel like if not, it'll be under
Or
expenditures.
maybe it was under the summary.
Was it?
I'm not sure.
So I remember seeing it though. It might be expenditures. No, it's not that. I would love to look up Michael Bloomberg to see like what he spent. Oh gosh, what happened?
Home screen. Oh no.
Okay, summary. Um. So, oh yes, so it was right underneath. Damn, I should have never got on that at all. Okay, so the source of the fund. So you can see from the chart here that large black line right here are the large contributions, which is showing to be about 62% of Joe Biden's funding comes from large
Okay.
contributors. And the small individual contributions with $200 or less is standing at 38.9%. So you can see those written down here. But let's compare that to Donald Trump and to see how he does in that area. So his source of funding, small individual contribution, that is crazy. So he actually has the support of the people, which is a very interesting thing to note
To
that is
see.
different between him and Donald Trump, someone that everyone considers like the worst president in modern American history or whatnot. But he actually has the support of his party and the American people, which Joe Biden does not. And that is
A-
telling.
And you know what's interesting is this whole time we've been kind of saying that we felt Bernie would do better against Trump because he has the base voter, the base amount of voters that in like Trump, you know, he has this loyal set of people who are always going to vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really funny to see that Trump is, yeah, it's interesting.
It's that's why the answer has always been for me like to since Donald Trump is really the answer for the populist right, we should have a populist left
Left,
answer to
yeah.
that. And the answer was Bernie Sanders, and that's why he had the most individual contributions of any presidential candidate in American history.
Well, and
And he
when
was
you see
constantly breaking
these,
records.
when really what this shows me too, it then when you see that Trump has the majority of his money coming into his campaign or from individual contributions, that should be scary to everybody. That should be alarming.
That's
That should make you
enthusiasm.
that should really make you question the get-go if you ever should have been on board with Biden. And it also really, to me, makes me wonder, um, what's up with the DNC? What's up with these Democrats who are funneling all this money into politics? They're clearly don't have your best interest. And clearly people think Donald Trump does, because they're donating. More people are donating to him than they are to Biden or to any other Democratic nominee besides Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
That is super scary. And these people are the ones that are not only donating to him, but these are the ones that are actually going to show up. These
Mm-hmm.
are enthusiastic voters. If you would know anything about Trump's voters, they're like cult-like, so they're going to go out and support the president no matter what, right? No matter what this guy does, he can like grab women by the pussy. He can do like all this crazy shit, and nothing sticks. Nothing sticks. He can have all these allegations against him. He can do a shitty job as the president, and nothing is really sticking to this guy.
And Democrats are always going to be worse.
As long as they keep putting up people like Hillary Clinton, like Joe Biden, all those centrist, moderate candidates that are losing strategies when it comes to a national election, what we need is to fight fire with fire and elect a progressive to put them in the White House. That is the winning strategy on the national level. That is going to address all the inequalities that we're seeing. People are going to come out in support of that. That's why we were pushing that. Not because we wanted to have our own agenda up there, not because we wanted to have a socialist in the president or the first Jewish president or anything like that. Nothing superficial, but because his policies enabled and led the way for a better, more equitable future for everybody involved, all Americans. And he's the one pushing right now for the $2,000 cash payments, and has been since he was running in the presidential primaries. He's the one that's kind of been talking about that. He was one of the first Democrats that did not let Donald Trump or any of the Republicans show up to his left. He was not about to do that. So,
well,
yeah,
I agree. I think that there's just so many things that I think that I wish Bernie would have done better so that he could still be here. Because when you think about Trump came because people were like, what is going on? We need a huge change, and Trump is that big change. So I feel, and just kind of like what you said, the only way to really combat that is to come up with a person where we're like, oh my gosh, Trump is horrible. We need to get him out of here. We need to do something really crazy to the left, just like people did really crazy to the right. And crazy, I say, because people say that Bernie's ideas are radical and whatever. Though have talked about this before. They've been talked about for decades now. But this idea that Biden is going to be the person who is going to save us from Trump, I just don't see that being viable. And when you look at Open Secrets and you look at the fact that he's getting a lot of these contributions from big donors, it also makes me wonder, when he does get into office, who does he really care about? Where is his devotion? Where does it really lie? Does it lie with the people who are voting him in, or does it lie with the people who are buying him in? And I have to assume it's the latter.
absolutely. Like, I think it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people to insinuate that, like, because you receive this staggering amount of money from like all these dark entities and all these other people, that's not your constituents. Like, it's an insult to think that that they won't do anything to the benefit of those contributors or to the donors that do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's laughable, right? Like, that's like dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
Yes. Like, can I talk about that,
this.
Linda? Can I talk about that WWE thing?
Yeah, go ahead and talk about it. I think it's a great way to. We'll wrap it up after that.
Okay, so gosh, what was that PAC? Is it America First?
I have no idea.
Act or something. The number 2. So Donald Trump campaign is the number 1 contributor to his campaign. Go figure. Number 2 is this super PAC, America First Action or something. And Linda McMahon, who is the ex-CEO of WWE, is actually the CEO, I guess, of the super PAC. She's the one who created it.
Mm-hmm.
And through this whole coronavirus thing, the WWE, well, not only Florida got like $18.5 million or something in relief or whatever, which I think is also kind of interesting. But the WWE was actually, there was a whole document stating that they are considered an essential business. They are essential workers, this entertainment industry. So I think that that's kind of interesting. The biggest PAC that's giving money to the Trump's campaign, and they are randomly essential workers. I mean, it's just kind of little things like that, but you see that and you have to assume that that is how it goes in other areas. You have to assume that these people are being bought out, just like the NRA. You know, just like how the NRA is constantly behind every single gun law that goes out. They are literally in Washington every single time something is being argued on the Senate or the House floor to be like, no, guns aren't that bad. Let me talk, blah, blah, blah. So I think that that's really telling, the WWE thing. I mean, essential workers.
I think it is as well. And I think that's a great place to kind of wrap it up and to leave our audience kind of thinking about that, because to me, that kind of just screams backroom talk, like smoke-filled rooms, that these are politicians at their best making these deals in the back room with the leaders
behind
of
closed
corporate
doors.
America. Exactly. So that's just extremely telling. And I'm going to I think it's a great place to leave our audience. So once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast, to this episode, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening.